Welcome back, guys, and thanks for stopping by. Last week you'll remember that we left off with the screened in porch was a total mess. We did all the stripping of the paint, all the sanding, took out all the screen, all the lattice, and so now we are back for weekend number 2 to do the second weekend of this project, which is basically replacing all the boards, anything that has rotted over the past 10 years. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the part of the project where you hesitate for just a second. You kind of have a point of no return once you put the saw blade through the floorboard. First, we used a Sharpie and marked all of the boards that had rot areas and started removing them accordingly. All in all, I think there were about 30 to 40 boards where replacement was going to be needed. We used several tools to get through the various situations. Let me show you what we have to work with. First up is the jigsaw. It's just a very inexpensive Black & Decker corded model. There's nothing fancy here, but it does come in very handy to cut out those puzzle piece type situations. We also have an oscillating tool. This one is a Rockwell, it's corded. This worked really great to be able to just cut down into the wood through the tongue and groove boards, where you would also have an occasional nail just below the surface. What else? A circular saw is also very helpful to use since you can adjust the cut depth to cut out the boards. Very helpful. Then it was just a matter of which tool to use. The jigsaw versus the oscillating tool versus the circular saw, while being careful not to snag a blade on a nail. I would note that most of the rot areas are around the nails, so it appears that moisture will tend to pool around the nail and the wood, and that's what starts the rot process over time. There's virtually no rot on any other areas on this 100-plus-year-old porch. Then I would use a miter saw to start cutting boards just to a ballpark length. Next, I used a table saw to cut the boards to the exact dimensions. I think my wife also wanted to start up a game of Pictionary on the side while I was using the table saw with earplugs. Good times. If I were in the market for another miter saw, I would consider getting a sliding compound miter saw. Just something to think about. This is something that allows you to cut boards that are wider than 5 inches, plus one for the Bosch orbital sander in a pinch. So at this point, it was just a rinse and repeat. There was no real way to cut many boards at the same time, as each one had its own specific length. We just wanted to replace the bad areas, not the entire length of an 8-foot section of board, since they were tongue and groove. So while Ann was cutting out old boards, I was on the side rip cutting new boards to the specific dimensions. Next, we laid all the boards out on the porch to make sure they would fit nice and snug. Again, we were okay with using boards of various width, as it is already the case on the front section of the porch. Since we're not using tongue and groove replacements, it made more sense from a stability standpoint to keep the boards wide, and then just add paint to that later. So before we get into the nailing down of the new boards from above, I needed to first maneuver down into one of the openings to add support to the support joist below. I simply just tacked up a new treated 2x4 to the existing support below to distribute the available nailing surfaces above. I was very glad to have a nail gun in this situation because the space below was only about 15 inches tall with absolutely no room to swing a hammer. A rubber mallet and a couple of nails, and things are looking much better already. I'm very excited. From here, we just kept working on the 30 to 40 boards that needed replacing, trying to cut the opening as evenly as possible so our replacement pieces could be more easily put back into place. We would also use a mallet or a spare piece of scrap wood to knock things into place, nice and tight. There were even some rot areas on the frame that needed to be taken out. No big deal, really. The oscillating tool is perfect for cutting through nails like this. And here we have more Pictionary games with Ann. This game is much more difficult with earplugs in. Things are starting to come back together now that we have the boards nailed down. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned, but we have been working on 2 porches this entire time. There's the front porch, which you have seen, but there's also a smaller porch that is about 10 by 15 feet. So it's almost twice the work, but not quite as much as twice the work. So now that we have the boards replaced, we have to get the whole area cleaned up, get all the debris off, all the sawdust off, and we have to get this entire surface prepped so that we can paint it. So after we did lots of sweeping and shop vacuuming, we used this solution called TSP. It comes in a powder form, and you just mix it and then you put it in a spray bottle. And we use that basically to really clean the surface of what we had just sanded. So we use this TSP spray solution on everything, starting with the ceiling. And then it started to rain. But in the meantime, the ceiling is nice and prepped with TSP and it's ready to be painted. So we're gonna have to leave it there for now, folks, as the wind and rain and the debris is gonna probably blow in and get the porch floor all dirty again. The ceiling should be okay since that's up and elevated out of the weather. Once the sky's clear, we'll come back, get the rest of it cleaned up, and then we'll get some new paint back on that porch. I'm really excited to see this whole thing coming back together. It was looking pretty bad there for a time, but now we've got some new boards on there. It's just a matter of time before we get a new paint on there. This is our absolute favorite part of the house, just to be able to sit on the porch and look out at the water. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next video when we start the painting process.